Today I'm going to check out filming locations for my favorite action movie of all time, the 1985 film, Commando. This is going to be a big job. There's only one man I know brave enough to help me with it. Alright, let's go see what we can find. Right here is where the first scene of the movie takes place. We see him come running down that driveway carrying the trash bags, past that wall that does look a little bit different because it's been covered in plaster. The trash truck backs right down this street, stopping right in front of his driveway. We see him come running down the driveway and he stops and says to them,
"I'm afraid you'd miss me. Don't worry. You won't."
Now this is pretty much the exact shot that we get. The house appears to have been rebuilt and it's completely covered in trees now, so we can't see the house anymore. But right here in front of me, this is exactly where that scene happens. The scene at the car dealership takes place right here at Casa de Cadillac. Right here is where the salesman was showing Cook the car that he then backs up and crashes right through this section of glass. And if we spin the camera around, these buildings right here can be seen in the background behind Cook. This building looks the same. You can make out that staircase. And the building with the green awning can be seen, although the awning's blue in the movie. And if we pan over this way, you get a really good shot of this fat burger in the scene. But in the movie, it's USA Burger. So he would have crashed through the glass right here. Down this way. He hits a truck right here and then speeds off down this way. When the boat explodes, supposedly killing Bennett, that happens right here in the San Pedro Harbor. These mountains can be seen in the background on one side of Bennett's boat, and on the other side of Bennett's boat, you can see the Vincent Thomas Bridge in the background. Mount Baldy, California, this is where Matrix and his daughter enjoy ice cream in the beginning of the movie. And just up the road, a little less than a mile, is the Matrix cabin. But from what I've been told, it's on a private road completely off limits and there's not really anything to see, but we'll go check it out in a minute. Now in the movie, this is the Mount Baldy snack shop. I'm not quite sure what it is now. The last time we were up here, it was like a general store, and we went inside and talked to the guy running it and tried asking him about them filming the movie here, but he had no idea what we were talking about, said he had never even heard of Commando. Of course, they had some tables and chairs set up right here in the parking lot, and that's where Matrix and Jenny enjoy their ice cream cones. Oh, it looks like Mini Matrix got himself a cone. Here, let me help you with that, John. Matrix's cabin is down this road, but like I said, it's a private road and nothing can be seen from the main road out here. When they're dropping John off at the airport, we see them pull up to the Tom Bradley terminal, and you can see the planes in the background off on the runway. This is pretty much the shot of the runway that we get as they drop him off. And they pull up right here to the Tom Bradley terminal, but everything looks completely different. It's been remodeled and looks nothing like it did back then. As Bennett pulls away, we get a shot of parking structure number 4, but again, it's been remodeled so much, it's missing that bridge that goes from the parking structure to the terminal. However, they do still have the bridge on other sections of the parking structure, and it looks exactly like it did in the movie. As Matrix chases Sully out of the airport, you can see the LAX theme building in the background as they pull out onto Century Boulevard. Matrix follows Sully to the Sherman Oaks Galleria, but sadly the original Galleria was torn down in the 90s and all we're left with is this outdoor shopping center. But imagine if you can, somewhere in here is where Matrix fights off all those security guards and then swings across the mall onto the top of the elevators. So this is where they would have entered and exited the parking garage. They would have come out of the parking garage, come right down this way. We would have seen all these buildings here. And if you look way down the street, you can even see that mobile gas station sign in the back of the shot. Right here in front is where those escalators would have been that Cindy would have come running down, and John and Sully would have rounded this corner, and we see that building behind them. Matrix chases Sully down Ventura Boulevard before heading up into Benedict Canyon. Sully turns off of Beverly Glen right there onto Mulholland Drive, and Matrix hops the curb, cutting across the grass and then onto Mulholland Drive. The rumor is about a mile hike up this trail is the spot where Matrix dangles Sully over the canyon. Well, I was doing okay until I looked up there and saw that that's what's ahead of me. Man, that's a steep incline. Yeah, so this is pretty awful. I'm not much of a hiker. And the funny thing is I'm doing this all for a location that I don't even know if it's correct. Well, I made it to the top, and I gotta say, I'm still not 100% sure if this is the spot, but let's pretend for a second that it is, and let me walk you guys through it. So they would have come from that way, as Sully goes up this incline right here, and his car flips over and ends up right here in the middle of the road. Matrix passes by him running into a telephone pole that would have been right here. As you can see, there's no telephone pole, but I'm pretty sure that was actually added just for the movie, because if you watch when he hits it, it moves just a little bit too much. Then Matrix heads over, pulls Sully out of the car, and brings him over to the edge. Now another thing that's different is we're missing that wall that Matrix steps up onto. Now there's two possibilities. This helipad here, I believe, was built long after the movie, so when they built this helipad, they might have just ripped out the wall completely. The other possibility is that that wall was never actually here, and it was just added for the movie to give something for Matrix to step up onto and give him a little bit of height. He dangles Sully over the edge, and we get a shot of that road down there. I gotta say, the road does seem to match up exactly with what we see in the movie. Another thing that's missing is all of those street lamps, but those are extremely easy to add and most likely were just for film production. As Matrix and Cindy pull away in Sully's car, this is the shot we get, and this matches up exactly. As I look off into the canyons, I can still hear Sully's awkward scream. That's got to be the only time that anyone's ever yelled ooh la la as they fell to their death. Well, after seeing it in person and looking around a bit, my opinion, this is the correct spot. But again, that's just my opinion. We see Bennett, Eris, and Jenny getting into a Jeep and heading down a long pier towards Eris Mansion. That pier is located in San Simeon, California, just below Hearst Castle. This was the location of the Sunspot Motel, where Matrix meets up with Cook and has that fight in the hotel room. It was originally Carl's Sea Air Lodge and later turned into the Sunspot. It was shut down in the 80s and sat vacant for almost 10 years. The city was planning to renovate it and turn it back into a motel and restaurant, but in the mid-90s a landslide crushed a big portion of the property and they just ended up tearing it down. When Matrix and Cindy are on their way to go shopping, we very briefly see them driving down Santa Monica Boulevard towards the 405 freeway. You can even see that donuts and croissants sign still there all these years later. Matrix and Cindy are heading down Sheldon Street as they approach Surplus City and turn into that driveway. They dressed up the front of the building quite a bit, adding all of those neon signs and rockets and whatnot. Surplus City was also used for the 1984 film The Wildlife. They pull into the driveway and park somewhere here in the parking lot, and that's when Matrix finds the bulldozer, comes out here onto the street, and crashes right through the front of the building. After the police pick up Matrix at the Surplus store, they end up more than 40 miles away in San Pedro, California, on Pacific between 11th and 13th Street. We see Cindy turn onto Pacific and pull up right next to the police. This building here can be seen in the background. At the time it was a bike shop, and that sign and those windows are exactly the same as they were in the movie. Cindy would have been stopped right here in front of this chicken restaurant. You can see some of those bricks and that awning in the background behind her. The police truck leaves from this intersection, and when it gets to right about here, that's when the rocket hits it and it flips over. And it ends up landing right here in front of this hardware store. Now this hardware store has been heavily remodeled, but that sign on the left side of the building, along with the American Furniture sign, can be seen in the background. The fictional Valverde Airport, in reality, is the Long Beach Airport, and as you can see, they didn't have to do much to it. They changed the sign and dressed it up a little bit, but the building looks pretty much just like it did in the movie. When we see Matrix storming the barracks in Valverde, that was once again shot on the beaches of San Simeon. The barracks were built just for the movie and then destroyed, as we see in the film. Now, although the surrounding land of Aris's mansion was shot in San Simeon, the mansion itself is the Harold Lloyd estate in Beverly Hills. Earlier in the movie, we see Aris pulling up to the front of the mansion right next to the fountain. You can see the fountain here on this Google Earth view. Also, the big shootout at the end of the movie takes place here in the garden. Here's a Google Earth view of that. And for the very end of the movie, we head back to the beaches of San Simeon. As you can see on this Google view, it looks exactly the same. Did anybody else ever wonder why Jenny gives Cindy a hug instead of asking, "Who the hell are you?" Well, that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed watching the filming locations for one of the best action movies of all time. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
Commando, what are you doing? We need to get inside.
It's completely, it's shut down to the public. We can't get in there.
But they're going to kill my daughter. We have to get inside. If we don't get in, they're going to kill my daughter.
You're a 41-year-old man. You're a 41-year-old man.